Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom, and I work in the technical SEO team here at RocketMill. And towards the end of last year, I spent 2 days at Google learning how to build progressive web apps. And today I'm going to tell you how you can use this technology to build fast, reliable, and immersive mobile experiences. So, what is a progressive web app? Progressive web apps are traditional web applications enhanced with modern technologies. When they're enhanced in this way, they're able to provide an app-like experience within mobile browsers. So what are the main features of a progressive web app? Well, the first thing to note is that they're fast. The first thing you do when you build a progressive web app is you pre-cache all of your site's largest static resources. And by doing that, you reduce the overall network load, which allows content to load faster. They're also responsive because, again, from the initial build, it has to be the case that PWAs are capable of fitting any form factor, be it desktop, mobile, tablet, or future developments. And finally, they're network independent. PWAs work offline, and because of this, they can deliver rich content on low-quality networks. So who is using progressive web apps? Well, one of the biggest companies that have invested in the technology is the Washington Post. The Washington Post produced its PWA in 2016. Whether you access the Washington Post on desktop, on phone, or on tablet, you'll be making use of PWA technology. In addition to this, it's also built using AMP HTML, accelerated mobile pages, which again promotes faster content loading. So what are the benefits? How was the Washington Post able to turn this to their advantage? Well, they're capable of publishing over 1,000 articles a day, which goes to prove how robust the PWA framework is. As well as this, they record an 88% reduction in load time compared with the traditional mobile version of their site. And finally, they record a 27% increase in organic users who return within 7 days, proving that within a PWA environment, companies are able to boost their customer retention. But why are Google invested in PWA technology? Well, to understand this, we need to look at the broader context. PWAs are part of a broader initiative on Google's part to make the 21st century web fit for purpose. The way we use the internet today, and crucially our expectations about how the internet should work, do not fit with its original text-centric, insecure, desktop-based, English language 1990s version of the internet. So Google has introduced several initiatives which go some way to remedying that. So we have HTTP2 for faster data packet transfer. We have HTTPS to make basic and fast encryption mandatory, not an optional extra for sites. And we have AMP for richer and speedier mobile browsing experiences. Finally, there's Google Lighthouse, which is a diagnostic tool which developers can use to check the speed and integrity and overall security of the sites they manage. How do progressive web apps work? So we're going to drill down a little bit now and look at some of the core technologies which are behind it. We're going to start with this concept of progressive enhancement. Progressive enhancement is the core tenet of PWAs, and it contrasts with the notion of graceful degradation, whereby as time goes on, older devices become less and less capable of supporting the latest features, requiring an upgrade. The idea behind progressive web apps is that those on poor connections, limited hardware, or in countries where there is an undeveloped cellular network, these sorts of people should not be penalised or prevented from accessing fast and rich content. In fact, these are the very sorts of people that PWAs are designed to serve. But progressive enhancement also has another element to it, and this comes down to how you actually build the app from the developer's point of view. So PWAs are progressive in terms of their technical implementation. And the key point here is that there is more than one way to implement a progressive web app. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's highly modular and can be adapted to the specific needs of your business or market. For instance, it's possible to build a progressive web app just using HTML or HTML and CSS. However, once you introduce JavaScript, the capabilities increase by many factors, because it's JavaScript that enables the service worker, which is the technology which is responsible for the pre-caching I spoke about at the beginning. But the service worker doesn't have to apply to the whole site. you can restrict it to a subdomain or a subfolder to test the benefits of PWA. And if it meets your needs and it's working, you can extend its scope. You can also introduce further APIs, save to home screen functionality, and also push notifications. So we see how the progressive web app technology scales up. Another concept that's at the core of progressive web apps is that they are inherently responsive. What does this mean? Well, when you build a progressive web app, you start with the application shell. This is basically an empty template that contains the app's most basic graphic assets. These are the very things that are pre-cached in that initialization process. During the pre-caching process, however, you must optimize your assets for responsiveness and speed. And one of the ways that you do that is by using these technologies along the bottom of the screen here, which I'm sure are familiar to our people in the creative department. So these are developments in HTML and CSS which enable you to ensure that your content scales up to different devices. It's not all being handled solely by media queries. And once that's in place, the same app can function across devices. The last technical aspect we're going to look at is the service worker. And we're going to look at how it functions. So we've cached our resources. Now let's look at how it works in practice. So we have a user on a PWA and they click a link. Now normally this would send a request to the server along with the usual client-server internet architecture. But what happens with a PWA is the service worker intercepts the request and it checks the request against its internal cache, which is of course offline. And if it finds the content in that cache, it will return it straight to the user without troubling the server at all. If, however, it comes up empty and the resource is not contained in its cache, it goes through the normal process of going to the server, and then it would return the content. This is an idealization. In reality, it's unlikely that one whole resource would be served from the offline cache. It's much more likely that the static resources, the fonts, the CSS files, etc., would be stored in the cache, and then the raw textual content would come from the server. But still, with that in place, it still means that there are reduced network requests, which makes it load faster. So there's, as I say, a simplified and idealized version of the process. I'd like to return to that question that I asked earlier, though, and ask who else is using progressive web apps. You might remember that I talked about the initial internet being English language based and very, centered on American and an American architecture. Well, this is an example of another type of company that has used a PWA, and it's called Conga. So Conga are like the equivalent of Amazon or eBay in Nigeria. Okay, and the interesting thing about Nigeria is that in addition to being economically poor, it's also informationally poor. So the majority of people in Nigeria access internet via phones, but on 2G networks. And given the scarcity of the network infrastructure, it's very expensive to access the 2G network. So Nigerians are very loath to actually use their phones for extended browsing. But this is another ample opportunity where PWA technology can be used because it's reducing the network load, as I've said. So it's going to be less expensive for Nigerians to access content at this site. And again, we see that the effects have been very positive. So there's been a 92% reduction in the amount of data required for the initial load, compared with when they previously just had a bog standard normal phone app. And as well as this, there's 82% less data required in order to complete the first transaction, be that a goal or a conversion. So I just wanted to give you another window on how this technology is really revolutionizing mobile browsing across the world. The main features of progressive web apps, they're fast because they implement JavaScript service workers which can pre-cache resources so that they're accessible offline, reducing the number of requests to the server. They're responsive because at the very outset it's necessary that they meet the latest standards in responsive design, and they're network independent. They can work offline and deliver rich content on low quality networks. Thank you very much.